when a millionaire's Mandarin stumped everyone. The incredible black janitor's hidden talent was in the heart of downtown Chicago, where skyscrapers clawed at the clouds. A prestigious language school harbored its own quiet storm. Inside its polished halls, James, a 45-year-old janitor, scrubbed the floors that gleamed beneath chandeliers that outshined even the sun. His hands were tough from years of work, yet his spirit sparkled, nurturing dreams not just for himself, but for the youth of his neighborhood. Every sweeping motion told a story of resilience. Every classroom carried the hopes of students polished from the privilege of wealth. Then, there was Mr. Lockhart, a newcomer to the elite enclave. With his tailored suits and arrogant demeanor, he sauntered in sporting a silver spoon attitude. Lockhart's eyes glossed over James as he walked past. To him, the janitor was invisible, just another cog in the machine of his ambitions. Yet soon, that invisible cog would turn out to be the key that unlocked understanding in a language that left Lockhart floundering. James went about his daily routine. His heart ached with the familiar weight of prejudice. He overheard whispers, the snickers, the dismissive glances thrown his way. But he kept his chin up. He was more than a janitor. He held workshops on language and culture for the local kids in a community he adored. Education is the passport to the future, he often told them, his eyes sparking with hope. But as fate would have it, Lockhart's Mandarin lessons spiraled into an unexpected chaos during his first class. Grappling with the tonal nuances that danced like quicksilver, he blurted out gibberish that sparked confusion among classmates. "I can't do this," he stammered, panic in his voice. That's when he caught sight of James, the forgotten man in the corner, a person he had barely noticed before. Can you help me with this?" James turned, a quiet resolve swelling within him. "I can," he replied, and the world seemed to tilt for both of them. As James revealed his mastery over Mandarin, Lockhart's shock registered like electric tension, chipping away at his judgments. James wasn't just a janitor. He was a craftsman in the art of language, shaped from years of love and dedication. But behind these walls, whispers turned into glares. "Why is the janitor helping him?" students questioned. "He doesn't belong here," murmured a teacher in disbelief. As they prepared for the imminent language competition, the pressure laid heavy, magnifying the chasm between perception and reality. Lockhart and James practiced, Lockhart slowly mastering each phrase, each tone. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As competition day approached, the tension mounted. Lockhart began to flourish, showing promise as a contender, but every step upward felt like mud under James's feet. The culmination of envy and misunderstanding reached a boiling point when the community discovered the truth: a janitor had empowered a millionaire. A confrontation erupted, voices raised, accusations slashing through the air. In that moment, James stood at the crossroads of acceptance and rejection. Would his hidden talents reshape their views? Could Mr. Lockhart confront his biases head-on? The room filled with awkward silence, as eyes widened and mouths gaped. An uneasy stillness settled, but at the heart of it all, hope flickered, an impending transformation dancing just beyond their reach. The air hung thick like a storm cloud, heavy with unspoken words and judging eyes. James felt his heart race as the tension in the room hummed, every whisper an electricity that sparked between the students and teachers. Lockhart stood beside him, his expression shifting from panic to an urgent need for understanding. "Why can't you see?" James asked, words tumbling out with the weight of frustration. "I don't fit your idea of what success looks like. But language isn't just about speaking, it's about connecting. Don't throw that connection away because of who I am." Lockhart blinked, straddling the line of disbelief and awareness. He thought about the constant jeers of his peers, the prideful success he'd strived for, and suddenly it felt like shackles on his wrists. As whispers morphed into murmurs of doubt, Lockhart took a breath. "I asked for help, and you came. I didn't see you before, but I do now. And you're not just some janitor. You're a teacher in your own right. A ripple of gasps ran through the crowd. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. A millionaire seeking guidance from one of them? It was a jarring thought that upended their bias. Enough, shouted Ms. Henderson, one of the higher-ups at the school. Her voice sliced through the murmurs. We have a competition to focus on. This isn't the time for personal dramas. But for James, it had become too personal. Let us not pretend this is just a competition. This is about breaking down walls together. The silence broadened, hanging in the air like a suspended breath, each person weighing the significance of James's words. It was an unanticipated angle, an appeal to humanity that reshuffled assumptions. Lockhart shuffled, now keenly aware of the eyes on him, scrutinizing his every move. I don't care what they think anymore, he declared, turning to face the students and teachers, his voice steady. James has taught me more than just Mandarin. He has taught me to see value where I once couldn't. I owe him. We owe him. The tension didn't dissolve, it evolved. Some faces softened, suspicion replaced by contemplation, while others remained hardened, unwilling to embrace this shift. The competition loomed ahead, yet the cracks in the facade of their perceptions began to show. Would they accept that knowledge and talent didn't adhere to the ceiling of class and status? In their eyes, could a janitor be as influential as the millionaire himself? As competition day finally arrived, James and Lockhart took their places on the stage. The room pulsed with curiosity and skepticism. Whatever confidence Lockhart felt now had a backdrop of unease, a reminder of the fray they just stepped through. When it was time to perform, James gave Lockhart a reassuring nod. Just remember, speak from your heart. That's where the truth lies. Lockhart placed his hand on his chest, inhaling deeply, fighting against the tide of past doubts. As he began to speak, the words flowed with a newfound rhythm, a heartbeat connecting him to his roots, to the wisdom imparted by James. But just then a cacophony erupted from the back of the hall. An unexpected visitor barged in. The school's principal, Dr. Simmons, with a look of disbelief and determination. Stop. We need to talk. What could be so pressing that it would interrupt this pivotal moment? Would the truth bring freedom, or would it shatter the fragile bond they had fought to create? Dr. Simmons's voice rang through the hall like a fire alarm, jolting everyone from the moment's intensity. The crowd shifted, whispers replacing the weighty silence. Lockhart's expression fell, the confidence he had just built slipping away like grains of sand. James felt that familiar pulse of anxiety surge within him. What could possibly be so important? Lockhart muttered under his breath, a mixture of frustration and fear threading through his tone. He'd come so far, how could anything overshadow this pivotal chance at connection? Dr. Simmons stepped forward, her brows knitted, her presence imposing. I have just received word about the competition. There are issues that need addressing. We can't proceed without clearing the air. James glanced at Lockhart, who looked back with a shared understanding of worry. Both of them were at a crossroads, ready to fight for their moment, yet deeply aware of the fragile nature of progress. Isn't this what we're trying to change? James asked, unable to hide the shaking in his voice. You've spoken about success, about competition, but this isn't a game. It's about connection. Dr. Simmons hesitated, her demeanor softening just a fraction as she regarded the audience with a penetrating gaze. The room seemed to hold its breath, teetering on the edge of revelation. James, she said slowly, we're trying to maintain decorum. The school has a reputation to uphold. Reputation? Lockhart piped up, his voice cracking, fervor building as he took a step forward. You mean to say we're going to value your status over truth? Someone else's worth shouldn't come from their title. Isn't that exactly what we're fighting against? The murmurs erupted again, a mix of dissent and agreement washing over the audience. For the first time, there was division among them, the seal of complacency beginning to crack. All right, Dr. Simmons finally said, sensing the swell of support behind Lockhart. What do you propose? James glanced at Lockhart, daring him to take the leap. Gathering courage, Lockhart inhaled deeply. Let us speak. Let us share our stories, our truths. If it's about competition, let us compete for honesty and connection. Isn't that what education should be about? His words hung in the air, pulsating with a palpable energy. Messages cracked through layers of expectation like sunlight through clouds. Uncertainty laced with hope twinkled in the eyes of students and teachers alike. The principal paused, humming silence all around them, and after a moment that felt like an eternity, she nodded slowly. Okay, let us see where this leads. The audience erupted, some clapping hesitantly, while others merely stared in shock. James felt the adrenaline rush through him, pushing him forward. We can all learn from each other, and it starts here, today. Lockhart turned to face James, a small smile breaking through his nerves. Together, he whispered, and they both knew this was the moment they'd been waiting for. Yet, just as they began to embrace this new direction, another roar echoed from the back of the hall, drawing their attention. A group of disgruntled students stormed in, faces contorted with anger. This isn't fair. One shouted over the chatter. You think the competition is all about sharing? What about merit? The room shifted back into chaos, tension rising once more like a tide. Would they be able to navigate through the storm of voices clamoring to be heard? Lockhart looked at James. Determination filled his eyes. Can we really bring them all together? The stakes had risen, and the challenge became clearer. It was no longer just about one competition. It was about bridging deep-seated divides and proving that connection was the ultimate prize. Could they rise above the chaos and forge a new path forward in this tense moment? The path to acceptance now lay wider ahead, but would they have the strength to walk it together? The voices grew louder, swirling around James and Lockhart like a tempest. Frustration and anger bubbled over, each shout layering on top of the last, drowning out the hope they had just ignited. James fought to keep his focus, scanning the crowd for anyone who could rein in the chaos. Enough! Dr. Simmons's authoritative voice cut through the din. For a moment, the noise died down. If you have concerns, speak them. Do not turn this into an argument we cannot resolve. A girl in the front row stood up, her eyes blazing. What do you mean by sharing, Lockhart? We worked hard to get where we are. Shouldn't that mean something? Her voice trembled with emotion, and James recognized it. He felt the same pressure, the same weight of expectations. Lockhart stepped forward, raising his hands, trying to encourage calm. Look, I understand. I really do, he started, his voice steady but warm. But this isn't about devaluing anyone's hard work. It's about building a space where we can all express ourselves, where merit can include our stories. Stories? Another student scoffed. What does that even mean? Lockhart's brow furrowed in determination. It means that every single one of us has something to offer. It means we recognize that intelligence and talent come in many forms, not just test scores or trophies. James felt the weight of those words. He took a step forward, emboldened by Lockhart's bravery. We're not asking you to throw away what you've earned. We're asking to shine a light on everything else that art, or emotion, or a unique skill can be just as valuable. Dr. Simmons nodded, her expression softening. Perhaps this is the moment to embrace a real competition, one where creativity and empathy are at the forefront. But it starts here, with an open mind. The murmurs began again, voices negotiating with each other, the sound of uncertainty weaving through the threads of their frustrations. James caught Lockhart's eye, and for a split second, they shared a look of hope. Maybe they could do this together. But that hope was quickly dashed when a boy from the back of the room shouted, "Then what's the point of all this? If everyone's equal, if merit doesn't matter?" His voice trailed off, the discontent echoing angrily in the hall. Lockhart took a deep breath, his chest rising dramatically as he steadied himself. The point, he said firmly, is understanding each other. It's about connection and seeing value beyond competition. It's about creating a network of support instead of division. James felt a small spark ignite within him. It was risky, a gamble on vulnerability, but worth it. Let us prove to each other that our stories matter, that who we are is more important than where we come from or what grades we get. The room buzzed with tension, whispers often laced with doubt. But James sensed the flickers of recognition in the faces around him. They craved honesty. They were hungry for change. Okay, Dr. Simmons interjected, breaking the lingering tension. Let us try this. Each of you will have a chance to speak. Share your stories, your truths. Let us see how much richer this competition can become. A mixture of cheers and grumbles filled the auditorium, but excitement threaded through the crowd. It was a step hesitant, but a step towards something new. Lockhart turned to James again, grinning with renewed resolve. "We can do this," he said quietly. As the first student stood to take a turn, James's heart raced. Would this be the moment they'd all been waiting for? Could stories raw and real ignite the transformation they dearly hoped for? The air crackled with potential. Are we really ready to lay bare what's inside? James questioned as the first voice rose. And in that charged atmosphere, one never-to-be-forgotten moment was about to unfold. The first student, a girl with bright red glasses, stepped forward. Her hands clutched a piece of paper, but her eyes full of uncertainty flickered over the crowd. The silence consumed the room, wrapping around her like a warm blanket. Hi, she began, her voice soft, trembling. "I'm Cassie. I've never really been good at school, but I love to paint." James leaned in, interested. Cassie always seemed so quiet in class, but there was a light in her eyes now. With each word, she seemed to shake off a layer of doubt. "My mom says painting is my voice. It's how I express everything I keep inside. When I paint, I feel free." The crowd shifted. Eye contact formed where it hadn't before. Even the scoffers in the back leaned in slightly, intrigue replacing their scorn. Cassie's voice gained strength. "I painted my mom after she lost her job. I wanted to show her how strong she is, despite everything." Tears glistened in her eyes, and some audience members softened, nodding in understanding. James felt a lump in his throat. It was just a simple story about passion, pain, and resilience, but it tapped into something profound. It was like a ripple in a pond, the truth spreading, inviting others to share their own. A boy in the second row stood next. "I'm Matt. I love to write, but I hate sharing my work. I'm scared it's not good enough." His words poured out like a confession, raw and honest. "Writing is all I've got. Sometimes I write for hours just to get the voices from my head down on paper." The energy in the room shifted. What once felt like a battleground now resembled a safe haven. Each story built upon the last, like bricks in an unshakable wall of trust. As the next student stepped up, James could see their heart in every trembling word, every shaky breath. The audience was no longer just a sea of faces. They were weaving together a tapestry of shared experiences. With every story told, James felt a heavy weight lifting. Could this really change everything? What if this was just the beginning? One by one, each speaker shared not just hardships, but glimpses of dreams, small whispers of hope intermingled with the heartache. Some talked about losses, others about victories that felt inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. But they were cherished here. Lockhart stood still, his face glowing with pride as he watched the transformation unfold. This wasn't just a competition anymore. It was something deeper and unveiling. But then James noticed a girl at the back, her arms crossed, frowning. She hadn't moved since Cassie started. Her body language screamed disinterest, and James's heart sank. Not everyone was on board, and her unease threatened to darken the room's newfound light. "Okay, you've heard everyone else," she finally called out, her voice sharp. "But where's the value in this? Just because we share, doesn't mean we can win?" A murmur of unease spread through the crowd, a ripple of doubt alongside the affirming spirit. James glanced at Lockhart, who gave a slight nod, encouraging him to step forward. "It's not just about winning," he exclaimed. "It's about real connections. It's the bravery to be ourselves that can transform us, but we need everyone here for that." The girl snorted, shaking her head. "Bravery? Please. This is just fluff. What does it even mean?" James scarcely had time to process the implications of her words. The passionate tone he had felt bounce between them all now threatened to fracture. Would they allow doubt to creep in? Would this reclamation of their identities fade just when they'd begun to find their voices? "I want everyone to feel valued," he shot back. "And you matter too. Share that story. It could change everything." The stakes were high, and James's heart thundered. Would she choose vulnerability, just as they all had? Or would apathy shield her from what could be a moment of deep connection? The energy hung thick in the air, waiting for her response. The girl shifted on her feet, uncertainty flickering across her face. For a moment, her stormy expression softened as she surveyed the room, her gaze landing on each person who had bared their soul. With a deep breath, she uncrossed her arms but held on tight to her defenses. "Fine," she finally muttered, her voice barely above a whisper but filled with intensity. I'm Lila. The tension cracked, and everyone leaned in, hanging on her every word. I don't know what's so special about sharing your stories. I mean, we all have problems. What makes telling them so important? James felt the weight of expectation pressed down. This was her moment to be vulnerable. Would she allow the room to embrace her too? Or would she retreat into the shadows again? It's important, Cassie interjected, her eyes glistening with determination. Because it makes us feel less alone, and sometimes, it helps us figure out who we are. Lila's expression remained skeptical. Yeah, but that doesn't solve anything. No one's going to change overnight just because they spilled their guts here. A ripple of murmurs passed through the crowd. Some nodded while others challenged her belief with softer words of support. The responses ranged from agreement to encouragement, allowing for an open dialogue that only added to the swarm of emotions filling the room. James saw the sides forming and decided to take a step back, let the others speak. He was ready to take that risk, hoping the warmth of shared vulnerability would touch Lila. I get that, Matt said cautiously. It's not about solving everything. It's about feeling heard. When you put your words out there, it changes how you see your own story. Like, you realize it matters. Lila's brow furrowed as she mulled over Matt's words. But still, how does it help me? If I were to share, it wouldn't really change anything in my life. Maybe not directly, James offered gently, stepping back into the fold. But consider this, sometimes it's the first step. Sharing can lead to understanding and connection. It opens doors you didn't even know were there. The room felt electric with possibilities, but Lila remained unconvinced. She leaned back, her skepticism like a fortress around her heart. Then Cassie spoke again, her voice barely a whisper but filled with an unwavering conviction. I painted because I wanted my mom to know she's loved. Every brush stroke, every color was a part of me reaching out to her. That connection, it's powerful. Perhaps you have your own way to connect? The vulnerability in Cassie's tone cut through Lila's defenses. James saw a flicker of intrigue in her stoic expression. The gears were turning, though slowly. Maybe, Lila conceded, her walls wavering. But why should I care about being vulnerable? It feels so exposing. Because, Matt replied, eyes locked on hers, there's strength in being real about who you are. It's hard, but that's where strength lies. Besides, you deserve to share your truth, whatever that is. A silence settled over them, laden with anticipation. Lila looked around at the hopeful faces, her heart almost racing. Could she actually let someone in? Was she ready to reveal herself? James held his breath, every muscle in him tensed. The air was thick with hope and fear, the room's energy swirling in dance. If you're not ready now, that's okay. But understand that your story matters just as much as all of ours. As Lila's eyes darted around the room, the atmosphere shifted again. She finally seemed to soften, if only just a little. Was there a crack forming in her armor? The murmurs turned into a faint hum of encouragement. Would she take that final leap? But before she could respond, the sound of the door creaking open captured everyone's attention. Suddenly, they all turned, curiosity piqued. A tall figure entered, confidence radiating off him. James's heart pounded. Who was this person? What impact would they bring to this already charged moment? And just like that, the thread of vulnerability hung in the air, poised on the brink of revelation. The newcomer stepped into the room, tall and commanding. He wore an old leather jacket, a stark contrast to the polished surroundings. His hair was wild, making him look both impressive and approachable all at once. The tension, thick and sticky like honey, started to dissolve, curiosity bubbling up among the group. Hey there, he called out, his voice smooth, with a hint of energy that pulled everyone in. I hope I'm not interrupting anything too serious. Lila's skepticism returned, her jaw tightening as she crossed her arms once more. The others seemed enchanted by this stranger. He was a breath of fresh air, an unexpected twist in the evening's unfolding narrative. As he approached, James felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. What is your name? Cassie asked, her bright curiosity shining in her eyes. Will, he said with a grin. I just got off work. He glanced at the group, his sudden smile infectious. I heard something was happening, and I had to check it out. James noticed the slight way Lila turned her head, intrigued despite herself. Well, didn't he seem affected by the weight of the room? The nonchalance he wore was a stark contrast to Lila's burdened demeanor. There was something disarming about him. Will surveyed the group, his smile never faltering. I've seen a lot of stories in my day, you know? Working down at the construction site teaches you more than you'd think. What do you mean? James asked, leaning forward. Ah, I see a few familiar faces here. You're all sharing deep stuff while paused, gauging their reactions. But let me tell you, sometimes it's the unassuming moments that carry the most weight. What do you do? Lila asked, still bristling, but with a hint of curiosity peeking through. Actually, I'm a janitor, he admitted, and a ripple of surprise went through the room. But here's the twist. I've got a hidden talent. I speak Mandarin fluently. The room fell silent. It was unexpected, a stark contrast to the image that lingered in their minds of a janitor. Lila's brows shot up, the world around her sharp in clarity. That's interesting, Cassie said, trying to process this new information. How do you learn? Let us just say life has a funny way of introducing you to different experiences. Will shrugged. Sometimes you meet people who show you the beauty of languages, of cultures, of stories. Sound familiar? Lila rolled her eyes, her defenses still high. That doesn't change the fact that being vulnerable is scary, she shot back, but there was less bite in her voice. True, he nodded, unfazed. But if you think about it, sharing your truth that's just like speaking a new language. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. You find connections in the most unlikely places. A flicker of understanding passed through Lila's eyes, but she quickly masked it. You say that, she challenged, trying to regain her footing, but what if sharing doesn't make a difference? What if it just makes things worse? Yes, there are risks, Will replied, his tone steady. But what's the alternative? Staying locked away, isolated in your own head. His gaze drifted over the group, inviting them into a deeper conversation. Life is messy, but so are the best stories. Trust me, vulnerability starts to feel like freedom when you embrace it. Will's words hung in the air, sparking flickers of hope mixed with hesitation. James sensed a shift within the group, an urge to dive even deeper into this raw moment. Lila, however, appeared caught between challenge and intrigue, her heart beating a little faster. Would she find courage in this unexpected encounter? Just then, a look of mischief lit up Will's eyes. You think you're the only one here with a story? You're in for a ride because I've got a tale to tell. You want to hear it? An electric hum flowed through the group, eyes wide with anticipation, including Lila. Could this be the moment that drew her in? Would she unravel her defenses among the unexpected bonds forming? The air buzzed with potential, and everyone leaned in. What revelations awaited them next? As Will began to speak, the boundaries of vulnerability seemed poised to blur just a little more. To save lives. The revelation hung in the air like a mist, heavy with disbelief. Will's eyes sparkled with an intensity that made everyone lean a little closer. You see, I wasn't always cleaning floors. I used to be a paramedic in a big city. A life that had its share of adrenaline and heartbreak. A collective gasp swept through the room, especially from Lila, whose defenses seemed to evaporate like morning dew under the sun. James could see the mixture of confusion and curiosity etching itself into the fabric of the moment. I was young, full of ambition, Will continued, his voice steady yet emotional. But it took only one night for everything to change. The dim lighting danced around the group, casting shadows that seemed to listen as Will's story began to unfold. It was one of those downpour nights. Calls were ringing nonstop. A car accident. I rushed to the site, the screams echoing in my ears. It was chaos. In the end, I saved a life, but I lost a part of myself that night too. It was my best friend. He paused, letting the weight of his words fill the silence. The air felt thick with empathy. Even Lila's arms uncrossed slightly, revealing the fragility of her walls. That's when I realized, he resumed, his eyes softer now, there's more to life than running towards sirens. Sometimes, you're meant to pause to reflect. And in that moment of reflection, I found out that even the simplest roles can carry profound stories. Cassie wiped away a tear, while James remained transfixed, feeling the gravity of every word that Will spoke. Lila, still grappling with her own wild emotions, felt a pulse of connection as if Will was echoing the turmoil within her. After I left the paramedic life, I felt lost. It was hard to adjust to a different role. No one expects a janitor to have hands that once held the power to save lives, Will added, his smile slightly bittersweet. But guess what? I learned the maintenance of hope too. Every person you meet, Every story you hear just adds layers to your existence. A thoughtful murmur rippled through the group. Will's vulnerable strength radiated confidence, inspiring them to look inwards. Lila swallowed hard, her heart racing. Here was a man, once part of the life she had avoided, yet now standing in front of her hiding nothing, exposed and powerful in his truth. What happened when you got that call about your friend? Lila's voice was steady, probing deeper than she expected. Will took a deep breath. I had to confront my fears about being unable to help. I think we all fear being powerless, right? His gaze was unwavering, making her feel like he could see behind every protective layer she maintained. But understanding pain, embracing it, that helps you to truly connect with others as if you're learning their language. Deep inside, Lila felt something shift. Here was an invitation to explore an opening she had never anticipated. Will's laugh was warm, breaking the intensity momentarily. And that's why I learned Mandarin. I wanted to create bridges, to understand the stories my patients and coworkers had. He leaned in, eyes sparkling with mischief once again. It's not just a language, it's empathy wrapped in syllables. James felt a spark of hope ignite within him. So, if we want to connect, we need to be willing to share, to embrace our vulnerabilities? Will nodded. Exactly. And who knows? Your stories could change someone else's life too. Taking a gamble, Lila shifted forward, searching for her own courage. What if I wanted to share something too? Would she dare open this door, or was she still too afraid? Will's encouraging smile widened, lighting up the dark corners of the room. Then let us hear it. The beauty of it is that you never know who's listening. As that moment hung there, Lila felt the world around her fade. The buzz of anticipation rushed back as vulnerability beckoned her closer. Would she step through? And just as she opened her mouth to speak, the door creaked open behind her, a new face blinking in the light. The door swung wider, revealing a tall figure covered in an expensive coat. The soft light glinted off perfectly styled hair, and for a moment, it felt like the room had shifted. All eyes turned towards the newcomer, their anticipation momentarily displaced by curiosity. Sorry to interrupt, the figure said, her voice smooth as silk. I'm Mira. I heard the commotion from down the hall. What is going on in here? Will, who had begun to draw the group closer to a deeper conversation, felt the spark of the moment flicker. Lila, however, remained transfixed, caught between the weight of Will's words and the sudden arrival of this striking woman. Mira scanned the faces. She paused as a hint of recognition flickered in her eyes when they landed on Lila. You look familiar. Are you Lila Reynolds? Lila's heart pounded. Yes, I am. How do you know me? We met at the charity gala last year, Mira replied, her smile warm but tinged with a hint of surprise. I'm a friend of your father's. A ripple of memories surged, mixed with warmth and a touch of disdain. Lila hadn't thought of those grand events in a long time. Back then, her heart had felt heavy with expectations, and the bright lights had blinded her from her own desires. Oh, Lila said, her voice quieter now. I remember. Mira diverted her attention back to the group, catching the lingering tension in the room. What was that about empathy and languages? Sounds like an interesting conversation. Her tone held an edge, perhaps trying to draw them back in. Will jumped on the opportunity, hoping to maintain the momentum. We were just discussing how sharing our stories connects us. Lila was about to share something important. He leaned back, giving Lila a gentle nudge with just his gaze. Mira's eyebrows raised slightly, both intrigued and a tad skeptical. Oh, go on then, Lila. I would love to hear it. For a moment, the pressure felt unbearable. The moment that was so close felt like sand slipping through her fingers. Would she really take that leap? Would her truth ripple through, or would it fall flat? Taking a deep breath, Lila pushed her fears aside. Okay, I have something to share. Her voice wavered, but she kept her chin held high. It's about my family. The room grew still, and she noticed the way everyone leaned in. Even James shifted closer, eyes wide with support. I've spent so much of my life dreading the expectations placed on me, Lila said, words flooding out faster now. My father is a big deal in his world, running a successful business and expecting me to follow in his footsteps. I always just felt like I was living in his shadow. Mira listened intently, a flicker of understanding crossing her features. But there's always a but, right? Lila nodded, emboldened by the encouragement in Mira's gaze. But what I realize now is that I've always had dreams of my own. I want to explore. I want to create my path, but I'm terrified of letting everyone down. Will's eyes sparkled again, recognizing the bravery in her vulnerability. That's the beauty of life, Lila. You're allowed to make your own choices. And guess what? Sometimes, disappointing people is a part of finding your true self, Mira added, a calm yet fierce strength in her voice. Lila felt the bolt of honesty ignite among the group, her fear once a solid wall slowly crumbling. It's not easy to face that fear. I admire everyone here, even the paths you've all taken that might be different from mine. The room swelled with shared emotion, and Lila knew she was on the brink of something transformative. Will remained steady, the flicker of hope in his smile illuminating her path. But just as Lila felt her spirit rise, she noticed Mira's expression shift slightly. So if you want to break away from those expectations, what is stopping you? The question loomed large, echoing like a challenge. Lila felt the weight of searching eyes upon her again. She could see it now, her own resistance woven deep into the fabric of who she thought she was. Would she truly start breaking those chains? Or would the chains hold her back once more? As uncertainty danced in the air, Will spoke again, breaking the silence. Sometimes, it only takes one brave act to ignite change, like stepping into a new chapter. And as Lila glanced back at him, something immense stirred within. A yearning for more. Just then, the lights flickered as the power in the building surged, dimming the room slightly. An unexpected urgency punched into the conversation as the group turned towards an unexpected sound, the faint ringing of a phone that seemed to belong to neither of them. Who would be calling now? And why did it feel like it was a call meant for one of them? The atmosphere crackled with anticipation as the ringing phone echoed through the room. All eyes darted towards the corner where the noise originated, breaking the spell of shared vulnerability that had begun to envelop the group. Lila felt a rush of irritation interrupt her moment. It was like an unwelcome reminder of the world outside, a world filled with distractions and obligations. Will's brows knitted together in confusion. Whose phone is that? He asked, trying to keep the conversation focused. The crowd shifted, and then Mira pulled her phone out from her pocket, frowning at the screen. It's my dad, she said, the uncertainty dancing in her voice. Lila's heart pounded again, memories flooding back at the mention of family ties. Mira glanced at the group, and for a moment, a fleeting moment, Lila could see a little girl hidden behind the confident exterior, the innocence of a sibling or friend craving validation, much like herself. Mira took a deep breath, eyes darting from Lila to the group. I shouldn't ignore this, just answer it, Will urged softly, sensing the weight of vulnerability that had shifted in the room. He gestured subtly, as if to say that everyone was still here together, that sharing their stories would accept deviations, even interruptions. Mira nodded and raised the phone to her ear. Dad, she said, her voice firm but laced with anxious undertones. As the conversation unfolded, her expression shifted dramatically. Wait, what? The shock in her voice surprised even the most hardened observers. No, that can't be true. The room fell into a hushed silence. The very essence of their newfound connection was trembling in the face of uncertainty. What is going on? Lila asked, her heart racing again. They're shutting down the language program, Mira revealed. We had a poor review from last semester. They're cutting funding. This cannot be happening. A wave of gasps rippled through the crowd. How could something so vital be pushed aside so easily? James felt a tidal wave of anger crash over him. But this program matters. It changes lives. Mira turned, eyes filled with desperation and determination. We have to fight for it. This isn't just about money, it's about stories. It's about connection. Lockhart stepped forward, pulsing with newfound purpose. I thought we were here to redefine what success means. Isn't this the very connection we've been seeking? The words flowed, thick with passion. Mira nodded vehemently. Yes, but we have to rally support. We need each of you to write letters, to speak. An idea ignited in Lila's heart, fizzling through her initial trepidation. If we show them how much this means, how much we mean, maybe they'll listen. Yes. Cassie jumped in, her enthusiasm infectious. People need to hear our stories. We can host an event to showcase our talents, our connections. Give voice to the things that matter. With each idea shared, the energy in the room swirled like a storm, gathering momentum. Lila felt alive, flushing with the realization that she, along with everyone here, could be a catalyst for change. Even Mira's mask of certainty faded, replaced by an eagerness to join in this mission. "Let us take back what's ours," Will exclaimed, showcasing the fire of a man who had once been forged in crisis himself. "Absolutely," James added, fist clenched tight. "This isn't just about Mandarin or a school program. We're fighting for all those voices out there who think they don't matter." The moment felt powerful. Every heart pounding echoed a collective hope, sending a wave of courage coursing through them all. They had gained clarity not from masks, but through raw honesty. The stories shared were keys, unlocking doors that had remained bolted for so long. "Let us gather everyone here," Mira said, her voice cutting through the excitement. "We'll make a community event. In 1 week, a celebration of stories, art, and voices." In that collective, a spark ignited, illuminating the path ahead. They exchanged glances, nods of agreement, a silent mutual understanding sealing their commitment. Days passed, each filled with brainstorming sessions, art displays, letters written, and rehearsals. Lila's heart soared each time she shared her vision, finding strength among friends she never thought she'd have. They were forging connections beyond anything she'd ever expected, transforming her life right alongside James and Lockhart. And on the day of the event, the air pulsed with opportunity and hope. The school auditorium, once a place of unspoken judgment, transformed into a vibrant canvas of expression. Every wall bloomed with art. Voices rang out in harmony, stories shared, laughter orbiting through the crowd. Finally, Mira stepped up to the microphone. "Today, we stand here not just as students of language, but as people united by dreams and courage." She paused, taking in the sea of faces all so different, yet unified. "Let us write a new story together." Cheers exploded, and as Lila joined in, she felt the remnants of once-held fear drift away like leaves in the breeze. They were no longer segregated by status or titles. They were simply human, inviting, expressing, living together. And as they celebrated the stories, the art, the connections, it struck her. This wasn't just about one program. It was about changing the world, one voice and one heartbeat at a time. With the day wrapping, the warmth of hope wrapped around them in a tender embrace, building a foundation for the future. And as Lila took hold of her newfound identity, she understood the power of connection, of sharing stories, was more than just a moment. It was a calling. So if you're feeling inspired, don't wait. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that can change lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for these powerful narratives that matter. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear your voice. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation, because everyone deserves to feel connected. You need to show your support now.